If you'd asked me a year ago what betrayal looks like, I probably would have said something about lies, or maybe cold shoulders at dinner. You know, the slow drift apart kind of thing. Turns out, for me, betrayal looked a lot like two silhouettes tangled up in the backyard bushes, and one of them holding a pair of rusty pruning shears. My name's Jack Harris, 32 years old. Used to think I had it pretty good. A decent house, a wife who turned heads, and a backyard that looked like it belonged in one of those glossy home magazines. All thanks to the gardener. Henry. Good old Henry. We'd had Henry working our property for, 7 years? Never once gave me a reason to doubt him. He was an old hand, mid-40s, silver hair under his ball cap, wiry arms tough from years under the sun. A man you trusted with your azaleas and your garage code. Turns out, you couldn't trust him with your wife. It was a Thursday afternoon. You know the kind, sticky heat pressing down, lawn mower humming somewhere a few houses away. I was home early, something about a busted water heater at work, and I was halfway through fighting the pilot light in the basement when I heard it. Not a conversation. Not a call for help. Laughter. Her laugh. Amanda's laugh. High and giddy. A laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in a long time. I went upstairs, wiping sweat off my forehead, and peered out the kitchen window toward the garden. At first, nothing. Just the neatly trimmed bushes swaying lazily in the breeze. Then movement. The barest shake of green. A glimpse of Amanda's yellow sundress. Henry's tanned arm pulling her close, his head ducking down. And me standing there with a wrench in my hand, frozen like an idiot. They had no clue I was watching. None at all. Like teenagers sneaking out after curfew, they ducked deeper into the bushes. I should have felt rage. White-hot, earth-shaking rage. Maybe a younger version of me would have. But what I felt instead was a strange, cold calm. Like a quiet voice whispering, "No need to get messy. Make it count." I turned away from the window, set the wrench down carefully on the counter, and sat at the kitchen table. I didn't go charging out there like some fool. I didn't start screaming or swinging tools. No, sir. I sat and I thought. Amanda was 27. Henry was 45. And me? I was 32, sitting in my own kitchen, realizing I'd been made a joke of. I made a plan that afternoon, sipping lukewarm coffee while my wife giggled 2 shrubs away from our marriage vows. It didn't involve yelling. It didn't involve broken dishes or public scenes. It involved something way better, winning. You see, Amanda hadn't just cheated on me. She'd handed me every piece I needed to set myself free and still walk away with everything. The house, the cars, the accounts, her precious jewelry, the furniture she picked out from catalogs like it was some sacred ritual. It was all about to be mine. Amanda thought she was clever, hiding in the bushes. Henry thought he was slick, fooling the younger husband. They forgot one thing. The man they were betraying wasn't stupid. He just believed in giving people enough rope to hang themselves. And buddy, they were dangling like Christmas ornaments. The next morning, Amanda acted like nothing had happened. She waltzed into the kitchen in a silk robe, humming to herself, coffee mug in hand, same mug that said "Best Wife Ever" in big, goofy letters. The irony would have been funny if it didn't sting so much. "You're home late yesterday," she said casually, like she wasn't sneaking around just 20 feet from our back porch. "Water heater issue," I replied, deadpan, flipping a page of the newspaper I wasn't actually reading. She smiled, that tight little smile she used when she thought she was smarter than me, and floated upstairs, probably to text Henry some nonsense about how thrilling their little backyard adventure had been. I watched her go, my mind working faster than it had in months. If I played this wrong, she'd end up with half of everything. Maybe more, depending on the mood of the judge and the sob story her lawyer cooked up. But if I played it right, I'd walk out of this mess with my freedom and her designer handbags sitting on my side of the ledger. Step 1 was simple: gather evidence. Not the dramatic kind, either. No blurry photos or gossip from neighbors. I needed things that stuck in court: timelines, transactions, proof. So I started small. First, the bank accounts. Amanda liked her shopping sprees. Her tastes had gotten fancier lately, too. Lingerie receipts, expensive restaurants I'd never been invited to. I made copies of it all. Second, I checked our security cameras. Amanda had insisted on installing a whole system last year when some kid egged our mailbox. Better safe than sorry, she'd said, laughing. Turns out, she was recording her own downfall. I spent half the night scrubbing through footage. Sure enough, there was Henry, showing up early, staying late, a little too friendly around the patio when he thought I wasn't home. I archived the juicy bits onto a flash drive labeled tax stuff. Subtle. By the third day, I had enough to make a priest blush and a lawyer salivate. And speaking of lawyers, that's when I called in the heavy artillery. Joe Mansfield, divorce attorney, old friend from college. The kind of guy who smiled like a shark and billed like a surgeon. He owed me a favor, and man, was it time to cash it in. Jack, he said when I met him for coffee, you finally joining the Freedom Club? You could say that, I answered, handing over the flash drive. Joe plugged it into his laptop, scanned a few files, and let out a low whistle. Jesus. She gift wrapped this for you, didn't she? Gift wrap, bow, and a thank you note. He grinned. We'll file under adultery with evidence. Judges don't like cheaters, especially ones dumb enough to do it on home security footage. He leaned back, looking downright giddy. If we move fast and smart, you won't just get the house. You'll get it all. I nodded once, slow. That's the idea. Joe tapped his finger on the table, thinking. She doesn't know you know, does she? Nope. He grinned wider. Perfect. Play it cool. Let her think she's winning. I stood up, tossing a few bucks on the table for the waitress. Don't worry, I said, smiling for the first time in days. I'll make sure she feels like queen of the world. Until the rug pulled out from under her. And then? She'd be calling her sister from a Greyhound station with 2 suitcases and a sob story. The hardest part? Pretending. Pretending I didn't notice the sudden spring in Amanda's step. Pretending I didn't hear her sneaking quiet phone calls outside. Pretending I didn't smell that cheap cologne on her when she came back from errands. It was like watching a clown juggle knives, knowing sooner or later he was going to slice something important, and you just had to wait for it. I stayed polite. Stayed warm. Stayed exactly the fool she expected me to be. Hey, babe, she chirped one evening, tossing her keys on the counter. We should have a barbecue next weekend. Invite some friends over. Sounds great, I said, folding laundry like a good suburban husband. You invite whoever you want. I didn't even flinch when she mentioned Henry would probably swing by to help set up. Of course he would. Set up the grill, the lawn chairs, maybe the new life she thought she was about to start. What Amanda didn't know, and what made it all the sweeter, was that Joe had already filed the paperwork. Quietly. Cleanly. Set to drop like a piano out of a 10th-story window the moment I gave the word. All I needed was the right moment. And wouldn't you know it, Amanda delivered it to me on a silver platter. That Saturday, the house was packed. Friends, coworkers, neighbors, everyone milling around the backyard with plastic cups and paper plates, laughing, grilling, complaining about the heat. Amanda floated through the crowd like she owned the place. Flirting too much, laughing too loud, her hand resting just a little too long on Henry's arm when she thanked him for fixing the broken patio light. God, it was almost sad how obvious they were. I let it ride. Kept flipping burgers, kept smiling at the jokes. Even raised a toast when Amanda announced she had exciting news and winked dramatically, like she was hosting a reality TV show. That's when she said it. We're selling the house. She clinked her glass with Henry's. New adventures, new beginnings, she said, glowing. The whole yard erupted in cheers. I just stood there, tongs in one hand, beer in the other, grinning like an idiot. See, Amanda didn't know about the pending divorce petition. Didn't know that she wasn't legally allowed to sell anything without my consent anymore. Didn't know that Henry, her bold new partner in crime, didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I let her bask in it. Let her twirl around with her champagne, accepting hugs and congratulations from everyone who didn't know she was a walking disaster. Then I caught her eye across the yard, raised my beer slightly, smiled. Cheers, sweetheart. The next morning, before she even woke up, I was at Joe's office, signing a few last forms. Emergency injunction. Asset freeze. Restraining order pending. When Amanda checked her email later that day, she found a polite but brutal notice from my lawyer. Jack Harris versus Amanda Harris, petition for divorce. Grounds, adultery. Full evidentiary package enclosed. I was in the kitchen when I heard her shriek. high-pitched, wounded, like someone had taken a chainsaw to her dream life. She stormed down the stairs, phone in hand, shaking. "Jack, what is this?" She waved the email in my face, fury and panic mixing into something almost comical. I took a slow sip of my coffee, flipped a page of the sports section, and looked up at her. "Looks like new beginnings after all," I said, smiling calmly. "Congratulations." It didn't take long for Amanda's confidence to crack. At first, she was all fire and brimstone, marching around the house, slamming doors, calling me every name in the book. Told me I was petty. Told me I was ruining her life. Told me I'd regret this. I just kept folding laundry, drinking coffee, doing crosswords. Because I already knew something she didn't. Henry wasn't going to save her. See, Henry liked playing Romeo behind the hedges, sure. But when it came to real life, money, mortgages, legal messes, he was about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. By the second week, Amanda was getting twitchy. Whispering into the phone late at night. Texting nonstop, that fake little smile plastered across her face every time I walked by. I didn't interfere. I didn't need to. Because right on schedule, Henry pulled the oldest trick in the cheater's handbook. He disappeared. I caught the first whiff of it one afternoon when Amanda stomped into the kitchen, cheeks flushed, holding her phone out like it personally betrayed her. "He's not answering," she snapped, pacing. "Probably busy," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "You know how hard it is to run a garden hose." She didn't laugh. She didn't even glare. She just stormed out, phone clutched so tight her knuckles turned white. The truth was, Henry had been busy ghosting her. No calls. No texts. No surprise bouquets of wildflowers. Nothing. He had gotten what he wanted, the thrill, the chase, the easy company, and now that things had gotten messy, he was gone like a fart in the wind. Typical. Amanda spent the next few days trying to play it cool, pretending she didn't care. Suddenly she was too busy to talk about anything, focusing on herself, posting motivational quotes on Instagram about growth, and finding your inner warrior. It would have been cute if it wasn't so pathetic. Meanwhile, my lawyer kept tightening the noose. Bank accounts frozen. Real estate assets locked. Court dates set. Amanda's shiny lifestyle, the shopping sprees, the spa days, the fancy brunches with girlfriends, came screeching to a halt. No more trips to the salon. No more manicures. No more swiping cards like a queen shopping for her kingdom. And let me tell you, a woman who's used to living large without consequences does not handle a nosedive gracefully. The screaming fit started small. Muttered curses under her breath. Passive-aggressive comments at dinner. Then came the tearful guilt trips. "You don't understand, Jack. I was just helping Henry with the irrigation system. You're throwing away everything we built." "Helping with the irrigation system? Do you really take me for a complete fool, Amanda?" All you could hear from those bushes was your laughter and moaning. You burned it to the ground with a man who couldn't spell commitment if you spotted him the first 8 letters. I just sipped my coffee, nodded politely, and kept moving forward. Because the thing about betrayal is, once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can't patch it up with hugs or flowers or some crocodile tears. Amanda thought she could play games. She thought she could dance around the consequences like they didn't apply to her. She didn't realize that once the music stopped, she'd be the one standing alone. And buddy, the music was just about done. I woke up the morning of the hearing feeling lighter than I had in months. Amanda, on the other hand, looked like she hadn't slept in a week. She barely touched her breakfast. Just sat there stabbing her toast like it owed her money. "You're really going through with this?" she finally asked, voice small. I finished my coffee, set the mug down, and said, "Amanda, we're way past asking questions like that." She didn't say anything after that. Just grabbed her purse and stormed out to her car, heels clicking sharp against the driveway. Good. Let her stew. I took my time getting dressed. Dark blue suit, no flashy tie, polished shoes. Simple. Clean. Solid. I wasn't going to court today to fight. I was going to court to win. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Thick stone walls, high ceilings, the kind of place built to make you feel small if you didn't know how to carry yourself. Amanda showed up 5 minutes late, breathless, hair a mess. No sign of Henry. Guess chivalry really was dead. Her lawyer, some fresh-faced kid who looked like he still lived on protein shakes and frat parties, kept patting her hand and whispering like he could spin this thing into a sympathy win. Good luck with that, pal. My guy, Joe Mansfield, just sat there calmly, tapping his pen on his notepad, looking like he was about to enjoy himself way too much. When the judge walked in, we all rose. And that was it. Showtime. Amanda's lawyer tried the usual garbage. He's being vindictive. He's trying to financially punish her. It was just a mistake, Your Honor. Joe waited until the kid finished talking, then stood up, calm as a surgeon sharpening a scalpel. Your Honor, we have incontrovertible evidence of repeated infidelity. Video. Financial records. Witness statements. He handed the flash drive over like he was passing a dessert menu. The judge, mid-50s, no nonsense, gray hair pulled into a bun, so tight it probably gave her migraines, barely raised an eyebrow as she plugged it into her monitor. For the next 5 minutes, Amanda got to sit there and watch herself giggle in bushes, flirt at the patio, make out with Henry behind the hibiscus. The courtroom was dead silent except for the occasional click of the mouse. Amanda looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. Good. When it was over, the judge leaned back, looked over the rim of her glasses, and said, Mrs. Harris, would you care to explain this behavior? Amanda stammered, lied, deflected, blamed stress, blamed loneliness, blamed me. The judge didn't even flinch. She just nodded once and said, petition for divorce on grounds of adultery granted. All marital assets awarded to the petitioner. Mrs. Harris, you forfeit your claim. Just like that. 15 years of her scheming gone. Amanda's jaw dropped. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Me? I just stood there. Calm. Collected. Winning the game, they thought I was too stupid to even realize we were playing. By the end of the day, the house was legally mine. The cars. The retirement accounts. Even the stupid little boat Amanda always said we never used enough. She walked out of that courthouse with nothing but her handbag and a phone full of unanswered texts from Henry. I didn't even say goodbye. Didn't need to. Sometimes silence is the loudest sound you can make. Amanda didn't move out right away. No, for a while, she clung to that house like a cat hanging onto a screen door, refusing to believe what had already happened. At first, she tried begging. Jack, please. We can fix this. We were good together, remember? I didn't even answer. Just packed my gym bag and headed out the door without a glance back. Then she tried bargaining. I'll walk away quietly if you just give me the Lexus, she said, arms crossed, trying to sound tough. I smiled, pulled the keys from my pocket, and dangled them in front of her, then tossed them onto the coffee table. It's not yours to take, I said calmly. Leave the keys with the rest of your things when you go. The look she gave me could have curdled milk. She finally snapped 3 days later. I hope you rot in this miserable house alone, she screamed, voice cracking. I didn't even blink. I just went back to trimming the hedges, the ones Henry used to pretend to care about. She packed in a hurry. Trash bags, a few duffel bags, random boxes taped up crooked. No moving truck. No friends showing up to help. I stood at the window and watched as she crammed the last of her new beginnings into the trunk of her beat-up Honda, the same car she used to mock when I suggested we save for bigger goals. Amanda didn't say goodbye. She didn't even look back. She just peeled out of the driveway, tires screeching like a teenager who lost a high school fight, and disappeared around the corner. I stood there a long time, just breathing. In, out. The silence she left behind wasn't empty. It was clean. I heard through the grapevine that she moved in with her sister 2 states away, some little apartment over a strip mall in Columbus. Gone were the wine tastings, the weekends in Napa, the shopping trips downtown. Now it was roommates and frozen dinners. Shared bathrooms and rent checks that didn't stretch far enough. Henry? He never showed up. Word was he skipped town entirely. Got a landscaping job upstate and left his golden girl behind without so much as a text goodbye. Amanda spent years thinking she could upgrade her life by trading down. She thought the grass was greener. Turns out it was AstroTurf. Meanwhile, me? I didn't waste time feeling sorry. I remodeled the house, painted the walls, ripped out the old, tired carpet Amanda had insisted on because it was fashionable, built myself a workshop in the garage, started running again, started laughing again. Hell, I even met someone, but that's a story for another day. Point is, when Amanda left, she thought she was sentencing me to misery. What she didn't realize was she set me free. Funny thing about starting over. It doesn't feel like a fresh start at first. It feels like standing in the wreckage, hands on your hips, wondering what the hell just happened. The first month after Amanda left, the house felt too big. The bed felt too empty. The quiet, the same quiet I dreamed of for months, felt a little too loud some nights. But little by little, I found myself again. I threw out every trace of her. The fancy throw pillows she obsessed over. The monogrammed wine glasses we never used. The framed prints of live, laugh, love she thought made us look like better people. Gone. I filled the place with what I wanted instead, simple things. A heavy oak table I built myself. A leather armchair worn in all the right places. Books stacked everywhere, the kind Amanda used to call dust collectors. It stopped looking like her house. Started feeling like my home. And that's when I met Rachel. It wasn't some grand romantic movie moment. No, it happened the way real things do, quietly, unexpectedly, without fireworks. I was at the hardware store, standing in the lumber aisle, trying to figure out if I needed 3 2x4s or 5 for a shelving project. She was in the same aisle, arguing with a store clerk about the difference between plywood grades. I couldn't help but laugh under my breath. She caught me. "What's so funny?" she asked, smiling but raising an eyebrow like she might hit me with a 2x4 if the answer wasn't good. "You're arguing harder about it than most people argue about politics," I said. She laughed, real, deep, unpolished. The kind of laugh you feel in your chest. We ended up talking right there, between the lumber racks and the smell of sawdust. She was 29, a landscape architect. Smart, grounded, quick-witted. No airs. No games. No pretending to be something she wasn't. I bought her coffee at the little shop next door. 1 cup turned into 2. 2 turned into dinner a week later. And before I knew it, I was looking forward to things again. Rachel wasn't like Amanda. Where Amanda needed attention, Rachel gave it freely. Where Amanda looked down her nose at everything simple, Rachel appreciated it. She loved my clumsy workshop projects. Loved the backyard that Henry once mowed, now reclaimed and redesigned by me and my stubborn hands. She didn't care about flashy cars or trendy brunch spots. She cared about good conversations, strong coffee, and a backyard full of wildflowers. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't chaos. It was better. It was peace. And peace, after the war I'd survived, felt like the greatest love story of all. Life has a funny way of circling back on itself. It was about 6 months after the divorce papers were finalized. I was sitting on the back deck one evening with Rachel, a couple of beers between us, a soft summer breeze moving through the new garden beds we'd planted ourselves. The backyard looked different now. Alive. Wild in the best way. No more manicured showpieces Henry used to fuss over. This was ours, messy, beautiful, real. Rachel was telling me about a new project she landed, some fancy hotel redesigned downtown, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it ring. Almost. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. "Hello." For a second, all I heard was breathing. Then a voice I hadn't expected to hear again. "Jack, it's Amanda." I leaned back in my chair, looked out at the twilight, and smiled, a real smile, the kind that doesn't ache. "What do you want, Amanda?" I asked, calm as ever. She stumbled over the words. I heard you're doing good. I was wondering if maybe we could talk. Talk. Like 2 old friends catching up over coffee." I almost laughed. Almost. "Instead," I said, "there's nothing to talk about." I hung up without another word and turned my phone off. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Problem?" "Not anymore," I said, reaching for my beer. "Just a ghost from an old life." But Amanda wasn't done. A week later, there she was, standing on my front porch. Same tight jeans. Same forced smile. Only now, there was a little desperation tucked behind it. "I just wanted to see you," she said, wringing her hands like a teenager caught sneaking out. I stepped outside, pulled the door shut behind me, and leaned against the frame. "You've seen me," I said. Her eyes flicked past me, toward the house. "Is she here?" she asked, voice a little too sharp. "Yup," I said. "She lives here. My wife." Rachel and I had gotten married 3 months earlier. Small ceremony. Just family, real friends, no drama. Amanda's face cracked for just a second before she plastered the smile back on. I was thinking, she started. Maybe we rush things. Maybe we could. No, I said, cutting her off. No yelling. No dragging out old battles. Just one word. No. Amanda stared at me like she couldn't process it. Like the idea of me being happy without her short-circuited her whole system. You'll regret this, she hissed. I smiled, slow, easy. Already don't, I said, and turned around without another look. I heard her stomp off the porch behind me, tires squealing as she peeled away again, just like that first day. The difference now? This time, I didn't even bother watching her go. Back inside, Rachel looked up from the kitchen where she was kneading dough for homemade bread. Friend of yours? She asked with a smirk. I just laughed, wrapped my arms around her from behind, and kissed the top of her head. Just someone who doesn't know when to stay lost, I said. And that was that. Amanda, the woman who once thought she held my whole life in her hands, was nothing more than a chapter one didn't need to reread. There's a funny thing about betrayal. People think it leaves you broken, hollowed out, ruined. Maybe it does for some, but not me. Betrayal didn't hollow me out. It sharpened me, made me pay attention to things I used to ignore, the way people shift when they lie, the way love sometimes looks more like possession than partnership. It taught me that loyalty isn't something you owe blindly. It's something you give carefully, like a precious thing that can't be replaced once it's crushed. Amanda used to say I was too predictable. She thought she needed chaos to feel alive. And for a long time, I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I was too steady, too boring. But standing there now, 6 months married to a woman who loved me without conditions, without secret phone calls or schemes, I realized something simple. Steady isn't boring. Steady is strength. And strength was exactly what had saved me. I didn't talk much about Amanda to Rachel. Not because I was hiding anything, but because the past didn't need to take up space in my new life. Some nights, when we sat on the back deck, Rachel would ask about it, gently, without pushing. I'd tell her pieces, how it ended, how ugly it got. She'd listen without judgment. She never asked, why didn't you see it sooner? Or why didn't you fight harder? She just nodded, squeezed my hand, and said the one thing that mattered. You deserve better. And you still do. It's amazing what happens when someone believes in you without trying to reshape you. I kept the house. I kept the life Amanda tried to throw away like a scratched-up record. But more importantly, I kept my dignity. There's no court document for that. No lawyer's motion. No judge's signature. That's something you either walk away with or you don't. I did. And man, let me tell you, freedom, real freedom, the kind you earn through hell and heartache, it tastes better than any cheap backyard thrill she could ever offer. There's an old saying my grandfather used to mutter when life kicked him around. Dear viewer, thank you for your invaluable viewing. We will be very grateful for your likes, subscriptions, comments, and sharing our story. See you soon.